So obviously just asking the question means that you are expecting that, I will be extremely enthusiastic about GenAI. And obviously I am, but I want to start with probably the dark side of it. They are, according to me, or personally, I believe it's actually GenAI is potentially an existential threat to retail media. What I mean here is that, as we discussed earlier, retail media depends a lot on traffic, right? So if you are Amazon, if you are Walmart, you depend on the traffic mainly, let's say on the traffic of Amazon.com. If you are Walmart, you rely on the traffic on Walmart, right? When you start essentially using GenAI and LLM model, right, there is a chance where you are actually re-intermediating the transaction. What that means is that we can completely scenarios where you will say, okay, I've got 6 people coming tonight at my place. They have this and this food allergies. I want to do, let's say, an Indian food theme or whatever, right? I've got, please tell me a recipe. And you have the recipes that come back, right? And say, okay, that's a recipe. And you can say, okay, I have all these ingredients, but 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, right? Please order them for me, right? And you can see that the LLM can be connected to a system of action that would make the order automatically, right? And deliver that to my home by 6 p.m. or whatever, right? If you take this type of approach, then what happens is that you are actually removing the human traffic away from e-commerce website, right? This is a possible scenario. And if this type of scenario happens, that means that, you won't have any more opportunities to push ads in front of people, because all of that will be essentially captured by the LLM itself, right? So it is by itself an existential threat, right? So that's kind of the dark side. Or on the positive side, right, there are obviously amazing opportunities. And I'm sure Prabal and Dima will discuss about several. One that I want to highlight is that one of the difficulty when you do retail media is to be able to address this long tail, which means that you are able to easily address the first, 50 or 100, let's say, advertiser or providers, right, and provide them with systems and services. And themselves, they tend to be pretty large, so they have creative team, etc. So they are able to create the ads, right? When you talk about really the long tail, so let's say maybe the next 1,000 or 2,000, advertisers have also the capabilities. But when you go really to the long tail, to really like marketplaces and really smaller kind of shops or providers, right? They don't necessarily have a marketing team. They don't necessarily know how to run media effectively, right? They don't have these capabilities. That's when essentially GenAI can come in, because they can, you can automate the creation of the ad. You can, say, okay, I want to create an ad for this product. It will generate the image for you. It will generate the text. Then you can use more traditional, AI or machine learning to identify and create the audience for you, right? And identify what is the right time for it, right? So what that means is that the buyer, if you start packaging that, and there are companies that are starting to do that, by the way, right? Whether as a service or more as a product, right? But if you start doing that, what that means is that the barrier of entry, right, to run an ad is actually much lower than what it was before. And you can imagine sending automatically to people, ways to create their ads and for them just to validate it, right? That means that suddenly, you would be able to address this long tail and therefore generate even more retail media revenue. So that's one out of thousands, I would say, of possible example where GenAI could actually help.
I love that recipe, that metaphor there. That's making it super clear for how this disruption can work and, in our everyday life. So, Prabal, we haven't heard from you in some time. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think every time, right, I mean, I reorder my groceries, right? I mean, like, and think of like your favorite like AI bot or whatever sitting at your home, right? I mean, if you say, Alexander, reorder my grocery, 40, 50 pages worth of page views are gone, right? So I always think of that, right? I mean, okay, I mean, yes, it has come this far, but every time I'm reordering, that's the smallest thing, like where I see like the first disruption happening. But on me being like a slightly like optimistic person, like what if Alexandra was playing with my two competing brands of toothpaste, right? I mean, who are bidding on me, right? And changes my reordering pattern, right? Could be. So then again, we are talking retail media again, right? I mean, again, like my favorite retailer is making money off me just off my reorder. So there's that. Where I see, like as Bruno was mentioning, right? I mean, like let's say Black Friday shopping, right? Black Friday shopping, like I was reading somewhere, like leads to like in some cases like 6-7 hours worth of browsing, right? People are browsing and constantly comparing prices, looking at ads and whatnot, right? I mean, the moment I have a list and I say like go and like get the cheapest price or best deal out of it to a Gen AI bot or something, same thing, right? I mean, that's where like all the I think it opens up a door for a new kind of game. I think this is how I look at it, right? I mean, the game will change. The game will change maybe from soccer to like racquetball or something, right? I mean, you have to use rackets now, right, rather than just playing with your feet. So I think the game will change drastically with Gen AI, and I think it opens up the doors. But again, like it things will get disrupted. There is no like two ways about it. Things will get heavily disrupted, given me being a person like who with a conservative viewpoint of the world, right? I mean, I generally like try to cut through the noise and try to find the signal. I do see a lot of like actual like very innovative things coming in the Gen AI space. One thing I'm very optimistic about, and I hope it gets solved, is ad fraud, right? I mean, I want my ads, let's say I'm a brand X and I'm selling whatever cell phones. I want my ads to be viewed by humans, not in a bot farm somewhere, I don't know, right? GenAI can solve that problem, right? I mean, with all the programmatic, once you get into that programmatic space and whatnot, like you lose control over who is actually viewing your ad. Is it a human being or is it a bot somewhere, right? So I think that being said, I do feel like there has to be very thoughtful AI strategy going forward by all the retailers. It is opening up a very interesting area for us. Things will get disrupted. There is more things to worry about than in AI than like it solves for you, as a media would like you to believe. But you there needs to be a very thoughtful strategy around AI, and you need practitioners who have actually done it and who understand this space and who can see around the corner for you. Nima, over to you.
There are lots of things that I want to say. I just probably won't be able to say them in 2 or 3 minutes. But maybe just a few like real highlights. One, and this is a public service announcement. If you are using LLMs, just be sure to know and maybe double check exactly what it returns for you. Right. And the reason is very simple. We all now know kind of hallucination. There is actually a very solid machine learning reason why this hallucination is happening, is because this model has a gazillion of parameters. Nobody really knows how well those parameters are fit. And so nobody really knows where it hallucinates and where it doesn't. So to Bruno's example, if you really ordered food for your friends and they have, this interesting variety of food allergies, just be sure that there isn't something there, because who knows, maybe this is like this hallucination actually brought something inedible to one or few of them. So this is one. Two, I think the whole idea that somebody is emotionally connected on the other side of the screen, and I think this is what people are finding fascinating about Gen AI, is absolutely awesome. So think about the bots that we used to use, like when we call 1-800 number or when we type something. They seem dumb to us in the past. Now, there is an example when I just talked to a colleague of mine the other day, and he was saying that, for some reason, unbeknown, now with Gen AI, we're able to extract from the conversation, and his only point is we want names and emails. We're able to do it like 1,000 times more effectively now. Why? Because we put in an LLM, and LLM is actually appearing emotional and compassionate, and they're actually conversing. Our yield on this is so much higher. And he's basically saying, Dima, you won't believe it. So this is 2. 3, I really like the idea that somebody understands us at a level where we, for instance, shop at Walmart, and we shop and we shop and we shop. And all of a sudden, they actually do know what we shop for. Because guess what? At least in my case, I'm really conservative, kind of like Prabal. And I tend to buy same stuff. So when I buy bread, I really don't buy this bread and that bread and 10 different varieties. I buy this bread. So when I search for bread, even though for everybody else the search result page may look exactly the same, I want my bread in position 1. And this is, by the way, what Walmart is doing. And this is one of the reasons out of many why I love them, is because this is personalization 101, and they caught up to this. But from there is only one step to actually knowing what to put in my basket. Put as in put period there, and I actually want it, and I almost don't need to authorize the charge, just deliver it to my fridge. I think this is the vision, ultimately and ideally. And yes, there is a threat, existential, potentially threat to retail media in this. I agree with Bruno completely. I also think what is going to happen in tandem with this is that they will figure out how to upsell and cross-sell and make an ad so that I will buy maybe a different brand of olive oil, and this is going to be, some other different notion of advertising. I think this is going to happen. And maybe the final thing on just in general, creatives and how important this is in terms of AI. I think Bruno touched on this beautifully. Take video ads as one example. I think the biggest challenge that they have in terms of attracting more customers onto the platform, onto the platforms that show video ads is creatives. So creatives are difficult, but it's even more difficult to show creative that is compelling to a person in the moment. And so I am talking about one-to-one personalization. And by the way, just recently, I listened to this podcast with Harvey Ma, who is a general manager at Albertson's Media Collective, talking about exactly the same. Can we be one-to-one personalized and relevant? And I think the answer is yes. And I think GenAI, from my perspective, definitely has a role to play there.